Welcome to our channel, Having a Loving and Enjoyable Marriage. And this is part 2.
Falling in love and
Staying in love.
Ooh.
Yes. This is my wife, Priscilla.
And this is my husband, Abel.
Oh, nice. Welcome. So we are going to talk about falling in love and staying in love. And how do you fall in love?
I think you just fall. Anyway, Hollywood tells us it's usually the movies is love at first sight. You see somebody and you just fall in love. Did we fall in love first sight?
Not really. Ours was not first sight, whereby we fall in love. We slowly fell in love. And we were friends first, then just friends, and sometimes we have people who have been put on friend zone. We are just friends, in a friend zone in one way or the other. We really cared about one another. But somehow romantically, sometimes people who are friend zone, they usually make best spouses in one way or the other. It has been said that. And because even when that romantic love is low, you still care for that person. And ours was, we didn't fall in love the first sight, but somehow it was slowly becoming friends. And thereafter, we cared for one another. And there, the spouse come in.
And we were asking, did we fall in love or did we grow in love? I don't know. I think both. Okay. Anyway, among the first things we love asking when we meet new friends, when we meet new, we want to ask them if they're married, how did you guys meet? We love hearing those love stories. And, I like seeing their eyes brighten and remember those days. So today we want to remember how you fell in love, and how we keep it going. So those stories are the best. And when people are giving their love stories, usually the best. So your love is unique and how you fall in love is unique.
Yes,
it's all different. They're all different stories. So I love that.
That is true. That is true.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, now, falling in love and staying in love. The Bible is full of romance from the beginning to the end. You find the story of the Bible from the beginning to the end. It's whereby you have the bride and the bridegroom, and the Christ himself or God pursue people all the way from the Genesis all the way to Revelation.
You're right. People think God is anti-romance. Actually, he is the author of romance. Romance is God's idea.
Yes.
In scripture, we have a whole book of the Bible, the Song of Songs, dedicated to love. So I encourage you, look for it. It's somewhere in the middle of the Bible. Read about it. And we have the book of Hosea. It's about love. The entire Bible is actually about love. God is love.
Yes.
And we were created for love. Yes. I know you want to talk a little bit about the Song of Solomon so they can read a little bit more about it.
When you read about the Song of Songs, it's a conversation between three groups or three people. There is the Shunammite, there is the King Solomon, and their friends who are cheering them as they grow and they look for one another in love.
Yes.
So you find it is a conversation between those three parties on how they can pursue one another, and especially the Shunammite and King Solomon.
That's amazing. So we are trying to say that, please, when we talk about love, God is the author of love. He is love. So that's good. And please allow us for a few minutes. Although we are focusing on having a loving and enjoyable marriage, falling in love and staying in love, there are those people who could be watching who are not yet in love and they are thinking about it. And so please, we want to address those people a little bit.
Yes. Some of you who are not yet married, but you are attracted to each other, it's good. Because it starts from there, whereby you are not married, you're not married, but you are attracted to somebody. And especially when you're attracted to somebody, be in those zones that are very good.
We are saying that let's be active. If you're in college, you go to class, do something beyond class and going to work. Have fun.
Go to missions.
Yes, go to Bible study.
Go to church.
Go for prayer meeting,
youth group.
choir practice.
All those activities are good. It's a place whereby you can find somebody.
Go ahead. Sports activities.
Yes.
So we're saying, and right there, you're going to find somebody of the same interests.
That is very true.
What about us? How did we meet? I know it was in the last video, but some may not have watched it.
As for us, we were very active in the Christian Union. That is, we used to go for missions together, used to go for Bible studies together, used to go for, any other Christian activity together. And in between, we became leaders of the group and we came to discover, we somehow like one another. We became friends, and then from friend zone, we became caring for one another, and somehow here we are, 22 years down the road, we love one another as husband and wife.
Yes, don't forget your classmates.
That is, she was my classmate.
Okay, we encourage you, please. It's good not to rush into romantic relationships and relationships that end in marriage. We want to take time to see whether you're compatible and start in a group. If you go hiking together in a group and maybe you guys get in a situation that's frustrating, maybe there is a car trouble, you're able to see each other during those frustrating times and know whether you are compatible. So start in a group. Avoid specializing too early in romantic relationships.
That is true.
Yes.
Stop specializing very early. Know one another in those red zone and group level before you come to zero into this person.
Now, our perspective in what we're talking is a biblical perspective, and we would like to tell you a little bit about that. So, about romantic relationship, in a biblical perspective, some things that we want to use as a standard.
Yeah, if you are in a romantic relationship and you are not married, we usually recommend avoid sex before marriage. Sex is for married, committed adults, and it is very important for all of us to know that, even as we start this. So, sex is not for people who are not married.
You're going to spoil it, We'll get to that in another discussion. And then avoid cohabiting. A lot of research out there showing when there is cohabitation before marriage, the likelihood for it to end to a divorce can be pretty high. So
that is very true. That is very true. The likelihood is very high for people who are cohabiting, and sometimes many of them don't end up getting married to each other.
Yes.
So you make sure that you are not in that area. Be very realistic.
Yes.
If you are going to be compatible.
Yes.
Because sometimes some of the things that you usually see before marriage, if you're not realistic and you idolize and you say this one is going to go, be very realistic so that you can see whether you're going to be compatible.
Even as we talk about falling in love and staying in love, if you suspect a relationship is turning toxic, what do you suggest?
You avoid and move out of it.
Yes.
Because if it is starting there, it is toxic at that particular time, it doesn't mean that it's going to end when it comes to marriage. So you need to be very much aware whether it is toxic or somebody is getting advantage of you, you move out.
One way you should also, even as you fall in love, try and involve your family, involve your friends, so that you're not getting isolated. So I like the way you put it. The Shunammite and King Solomon, they are relating and their friends are cheering them. So please, let's not have, isolate ourselves from the rest of the world. It's not healthy. So, but we are here to announce that a healthy and a loving and enjoyable marriage is possible.
It is very possible.
Yes.
It's possible, yes.
Yes. Very good.
Okay, falling in love over and over again. Yeah, we just do not fall in love. We stay in love. We keep falling in love. It is a pleasant, continuous tense.
Oh yeah, falling.
Falling. You keep falling
In love with him
over and over and over and over again. I keep falling in love with him over and over and over and over again. He gets sweeter as the days go by.
Oh, what a love between my Lord and I keep
falling in love with him over and over and over and over again.
We remember that when we're talking about falling in love. It's
It
a
was
it's a worship song, eh?
We used to sing it in college those days, but we still remember.
But here's a very profound thought. That actually our relationship with our Lord Jesus is many times, given that, example of the relationship between the groom and his bride, Christ as our groom,
Yes.
and us as his bride, the church as his bride. Even with our imperfections, with our blemishes, Christ loves us.
Oh, hallelujah.
Yes.
And that is true. You find that Christ himself, the Bible itself, from the beginning to the end, is where God usually pursues us as the bride. He is the bridegroom, he pursues us, and it will culminate in the book of Revelation when he will come for the bride.
Amen.
And you will need to know that he usually pursues us every day.
Every day.
Every day. And even when we are not perfect, he is there for us. So we need to know that.
And we want to keep falling in love with him and falling in love with
one
our spouses.
another. Yes.
So sometimes it's easy to say, I fell in love, but we want to keep it present, continuous tense.
Falling in love again and again and again.
You like refueling our vehicle. Do we need to refuel?
We need to, yes. We need to refuel our love tank. Because when we do that, let me tell you, we go another mileage, we go mileage after mileage after mileage.
You're right. So,
Yes.
Well, some of us are asking, the love between you two, whether, when you're married is unique.
Yes.
And how you fell in love, you did things spontaneously. Nobody told you.
Nobody told you.
You just found yourself doing it. You're like, oh my goodness, I want to, sit next to you,
Hold that person.
hold hands. And there were unique things that you did. Nobody even told you about. So there are different ways that you express that, So.
And therefore, there's no formula on how you can fall in love with one another. When you fell in love, you just did it. The act of love spontaneously
Yes, you're right.
came up.
Yes, you're
Whereby
right.
you held hands, you wrote letters.
You want to talk about that? Yes.
I wrote so many letters. I knew she liked words.
Yes, I love
And
that.
because I knew she liked words, I would write letters. I gave myself the assignment of writing letters and using the best cards. I used to look for cards and know this one is going to please her. And I did it many times. I don't know whether I have ever written letters in my life, like during the time we were dating with her, because I would write letters until my teachers, my fellow teachers where I was teaching, say, why do you write so many letters? Because I knew I'm appealing to somebody.
To this day, when he buys me a card, when it's Valentine or it's birthday, I love reading the words in the card and what he writes. I love words.
So I choose very good words. And there's a friend of ours
Yes.
who suggested to me one day, you need to write a note and put in her shoe. So that when she comes in, before she put her shoe, you find the note, And it was a very good, I had not done it, but it was a very good idea. She suggested to me when we were newly married, and, because she knew she liked words.
Why we are saying it's unique, because that was a suggestion. We have not done it. But I thought it was such a cute suggestion, a sticker note in the shoe.
Yes.
We need to do a sticker
We need
note.
to do that.
We haven't done that, but that could be unique. Maybe that's you who put sticker notes all over. We don't do it. So we're trying to say it's unique, Then another thing we loved was walking.
We used to walk.
Yes.
I remember we used to, where she was staying in Egerton University, and behind there was a wheat plantation behind her estate.
Yes.
And we used to walk across the wheat plantation where no one is seeing us. It's us and the wheat plantation. We are just, the wheat plantation is up to our waist. And we used to enjoy walking. And I also took her for a crocodile date. Actually, I took her for a crocodile date. She came to visit me where I was teaching, and there was a river nearby, and there were so many crocodiles. And for me, it was like, this fascinating place I would like her to see. And I took her to a crocodile date. And we sat on the side of the river to watch the crocodiles looking for food.
That was in Kenya, but even today when we walk and we find a river, we're like, oh my goodness, we're doing a crocodile date, So us, it could be walks. When we don't walk, we have lived in Ohio for so long when it's so cold and we forget to walk outside. When summer comes and the kids see us just forgetting to walk, they tell us, Mom and Dad, time for you to go and walk. They tell us all the benefits of walking, although they're not walking with us sometimes. So they know. And that walking helps us to know what is in each other's heart. Help us discover each other.
Because when we walk, we are just by ourselves. There is deep conversation that we usually have.
Yes.
And by the time we are done with the walk, we have known one another's heart.
We do walk. We don't know what's unique for you. Remember, it's unique. You fall in love. You keep falling in love. It's all unique to you. But we remember one special walk in the rain. You want to tell them about it?
Hey. There was this walk. I visited her in Egerton, where she was staying.
Yeah.
And it was raining. And we had to close, we had to walk a distance with, from the gate to where we were going.
Yes.
And it was raining until we had a small umbrella.
Yes.
And we had to cover ourselves with that umbrella. The rain was raining on us, but we were enjoying in that walk as we cover one another with that small umbrella.
And we were like, ooh, it's raining!
It's raining!
We were not married, but we're in that phase, falling in love. And
we just wanted to be near one another. We didn't care about the rain that much.
Actually, I made a little poem. And the poem is 2 lines. It says, it's actually in this book we told you about you. We've written this book. It's about Abel's life, but in it talks about how we met. So one line from that walk in the rain says, the umbrella of our love. We need it. Come rain, come sunshine. That's the end of the poem. The umbrella of our love. We love it. Come rain, come sunshine. We need it. And guess what? We want to tell a little bit about that. One day in our relationship, 2 years before we got married, we happened to be far from each other. I was studying in the US. He was back in Kenya for almost 2 years.
It was the most toughest time in my life.
Distance relationship,
so hard.
It's hard. But we had friends that were cheering us and praying for us and praying that we keep loving each other.
That's true.
Just like the Shunammite.
Like when I was in my school, there were young people who were not married and who were born again. We had a group whereby we used to pray for one another and be comfortable with one another and pursue our love for our spouses to be where they were.
Yes.
And it came to pass. God helped us.
That's amazing. And when I was in Illinois and on campus, I'm an international student, getting to know my place, and I come across a statue that had, a man and a woman with a little umbrella in the rain. It was a statue. I stopped. I was like, oh, I took pictures of it. And I was like, it reminded me of that rain walk that evening. And guess what? Just the other day, about 17 years later, we brought all our kids to the same little statue in Illinois. And we took a picture there under the umbrella of our love. Yeah. I don't even know the name of the statue, but we call it the umbrella of our love. So I know you have those love stories. Please remember them. Tell them to your kids, It's a unique, everybody's love story is unique. I hope we just shared ours. Can't wait to hear your own love stories. Yeah.
And we also had phone calls. And those phone calls were very expensive because you'd call me from the US and by that time there were no cell phones.
There are no cell
phones. I would travel from the remote school where I was teaching to come to town and wait for her to call in a borrowed phone somewhere in the house. And I used to look forward to it every Sunday.
Yes.
Anytime that she was calling, I was there.
It's so unique. Currently in this generation, it's so easy to take a phone call, to text each other, to chat, Instagram each other. So all of you have all those stories. I know of a friend that they really had this, falling in love time and that relationship through chatting. So you guys all have those FaceTime and flowers, and everybody's story is different, but it's beautiful. We were made for love.
We are made for love.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. How do we stay in love in the mundane?
Hey, how do you stay in love in daily lives? That is
Yes.
daily lives.
Yes.
And sometimes, how do you stay in love after the honeymoon? You know? And I would say this, keep the honeymoon going. But how?
How do you do that? If you're like us, we got our first child, within the, we got married in 1999, and by the end of 2000, we had our first child. So almost all our married life, we've been married for 22 years, we've had children, we have 4 children. So how do you keep the honeymoon going and the falling in love going when you have diapers and dishes and laundry and school and work? How do you keep the love tank going in all that? How do you do that?
I'll speak this and I would tell the men who are listening, wherever they are, that when the kids come and during that time, please help each other in those diapers. Don't just, it's just a women thing. Be there to help. When they come to ditches, be there to help.
Yes.
And especially in the US where there are no house help, be there to help. If it's grocery, if it's laundry, whenever you help in those items, it's one list, one item that is out of your spouse list to do, and it usually spices the marriage because you have the energy, you have the, to keep the love going.
That's good.
So make sure that you help. Please, it is very, very important for you to help your wife.
That's good.
When it comes to those activities.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, he is telling you by example. When he helps me with grocery a week that I'm busy, or that really gives me more time for him. And that's healthy for the marriage.
Yeah, that's
so those
true.
little mundane things, the daily helping, with the diaper. Let me tell you, our first year of marriage, when our firstborn daughter came, we love her, but we didn't know she would cry all night, and we don't know what to do.
And
how do you keep the love burning in that?
During that time, when she was crying over the night, you subdivide the night whereby I keep her, a portion of the hours, and then she wake up, she sleep a little bit, and then she wake up, and then I go and sleep a little bit, because we have to survive and make sure that we keep the love burning.
Yeah, and then I want you to know that when one day process in your marriage, tomorrow is a new day. Every day you wake up and decide, I'm falling in love and I'm staying in love.
Yes.
It's a decision every day that you make.
It's a decision. And that decision ought to be made every day.
Every day. And then the cool thing, my mom taught me that when you raise a child one day, they have grown, they are one day older. So just know that will not stay. So we got other children, like our second born, should sleep most of the day. We had to kind of wake her up and hug her, So these two sharpers, So sometimes you feel like these diapers will never stop piling, this laundry, these two sharpers. And one day we have 6 more years before all our kids leave the house, and then we are left with both of us.
Both of us.
But we love our kids. We don't know what to do when they leave. But anyway, we'll discover what happens. So here is something else we'd like to say. Women, during childbearing, it's a very, very tough time for women, especially working women. We really need that support.
Yes.
From the husband, from all the support you can get accepted, from your parents, from your neighbors, where you get that social support is very important. Sometimes when you're pregnant, those hormonal changes, you don't feel as pretty like you felt, before. But you're just knowing that your husband loves you in the midst of all that.
As a husband, at that time, you assure her every time.
Oh, yeah,
every time. You tell her, you are pretty, you are wonderful, you are beautiful. And that is very true. And let me tell you, it is very good for that assurance during that time. Very good. And not only that time, even the time to come.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that. So then we want to talk about companionship. How about companionship? Yeah.
Make time for each other.
Yes.
Companionship is very important. Make time for each other. Be deliberate.
Yes.
About making time for each other. That's very, very, very important. Making sure time that you have time for that person. With the activities of the day, you sometimes you can find you're occupied and don't have time for one another. Let me tell you, make time, as you make time for other activities, this is a very important time, obviously, with your spouse.
You're right. Like Jesus told his disciples, he called them to himself.
Yes.
Before he sends them to the world, Jesus calls us to himself. So when we got married, it's for each other.
Yes.
Before we do many, many things, I have to remind that. And many women, we have to remind that, so because it's so easy for us women, so task-oriented, to be mothers and not Marys. Being a mother is like you're doing everything but the important. To sit down at the feet of Jesus, to take time with your husband.
Yeah, that's very true.
So, but we want to celebrate our differences, because though I'm so task-oriented, he knows how to enjoy the moment and be at the moment. And I learned that from him.
I learned, she's so task-oriented in doing things after the other. Me is potty every day. Give me people where they are, and then I'll be able, I'll forget about the other activities. But it is good to know, like she balanced me. It's not potty every day. There's a time for seriousness. It's not time for potty. And also on the other side, she also became, not task-oriented, so that we can be able to meet one another halfway.
We hope in the future we can talk about celebrating our differences. I was very task-oriented. Maybe it made me not as happy as I am. But when I got married to my husband, a surprise. He thinks it's his birthday or Christmas every day.
And then I actually, sometimes I can wake up in the room and just dance. Just dance. They look at me, they say, "You haven't gotten a happy pill?" You've got a happy pill. Even my kids, because I just wake up and dance, because I feel like just dancing.
Yes. And it's so scriptural. There's that side of God when he tells us he dances over us. He rejoices over us.
Yes.
And for me, it's that side. I knew God is serious. He's a father. He's a provider. I really didn't know him as one who celebrates over me, who is really, head over toes and loves me. I saw that in my husband. It blessed me. So we could be different. You may not be bubbly. You may not be task-oriented. You're uniquely you. God created you to be uniquely you. You don't have to do things like we're doing. But uniquely glorifying God, making time for God, making time for your spouse. You're right.
So in conclusion, would encourage you to keep falling in love with your spouses.
Yes, keep refueling the love tank.
The love tank.
Yes.
Let me tell you, that love tank need to be refueled every day.
Yes.
Remember, you are created for love.
Yes.
God is love. And we are made for love.
I was made for love. Oh, I was almost singing.
Not now.
So let's love in the mundane.
That is the daily life, daily activities of the day.
Yes.
That's the mundane.
Yes. And let's keep first things first.
Companionship.
We love the Lord with all our heart, our mind, and soul. And we want to love our spouses. And then we're going to go love our children and everybody. We were made for
love.
All right.
Oh.
Okay.
Thank you so much. We'll meet you next time. And I hope that you are going to subscribe and meet you next week at a time like this.
All right.
Thank you. God bless you.
Bye-bye.